everyone. Welcome back to another daily creative challenge. My name is Jesus Ramirez. Thank you so much for being here with me on the daily creative challenge number 3. How are you guys doing today? I see a lot of familiar faces on the chat. I'd like to say hi to Sam, Colby, Harvey, Gerard, Anthony, Ken, Ben, Valentine, Sean, Alberto. Thank you so much for being here with me today. How is everyone doing? I see that there's some conversation going about Metallica, so that's cool, I guess. I'm not a big Metallica fan, but hey, if you like it, that's cool. Um, there's also some talk about a Wacom tablet on the chat, so I will be using a Wacom tablet for part of the stream today, but it's not necessary. We're going to be talking about creating masks in Photoshop. If this is your first time following me today on one of the streams, I highly recommend going into behance.net/challenge/Photoshop and clicking on this big blue button to take the challenge with me. Then scroll down into this third box here, the one labeled Thursday, September 5th, 2019, that's today, and click on the Get Started button so that you open up this Dropbox link and download the sample file that we're going to use for today's challenge. What we're going to do today is take a photo of a person, and let me bring that up in Photoshop so that you can see it. We're going to try to mask her out. She is in a difficult background. She's blonde, and she's up against this background that's not only that does not only have a lot of texture, but it's also very similar to her hair color, so that will be really, really difficult to mask. So I'm going to show you what you guys can do in those situations where you don't have a nice, clean background behind you, and how you can mask something out. So make sure that you go into this page. Let me bring it up again. Into behance.net/challenge/Photoshop and click on Get Started. Also, if you missed our 2 previous videos, you can check them out on this page. You can click on Watch Video to watch yesterday's video where we added a bokeh effect, lights, and dodging and burning to a photo, a portrait. Or challenge number 1, where we turn a photo into a classical oil painting. So check those out if you haven't already. And don't forget to download today's file so that you can follow along. So I'm quickly taking a look at the chat. Ralph said, I'm here in central foggy California. I'm in Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area in San Ramon. Beautiful San Ramon, California. Alberto wrote, Jesus is going to perform miracles. I don't know if they're miracles, but they're definitely cool Photoshop effects. Susan's back again from Pleasanton, California, which, like I said yesterday, is just walking distance down that way from my house. So I could probably walk to her house, Susan. So hi, everybody. We got Ken from I'm not even sure where are you from, Ken. It says, try the Central Valley, consider today a break with only 92. Been triple digits for weeks. It looks like the Central Valley is hot this week. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Why don't we just get started with Photoshop right away? Actually, one thing I forgot to mention is if you're on this behance.net/challenge/Photoshop page, make sure you scroll down and click on chat with the community. Or you can go onto this link right above my head, and that will get you to this wonderful community where you guys, under the current challenge tab, can post all the work that you've been doing on these challenges. You can see how people have been submitting a challenge from yesterday where we added a bokeh effect to a photo. Really good work. So you can check out other people's work. You can post your work. You can get feedback. We can answer questions. I'm there. The Adobe mentors are there. Sam, Tim. I feel like Tim is always online. Tim, do you live on Discord? No, just kidding. But Tim is always there helping out. He's very knowledgeable. And he will answer questions for you. I will answer questions for you. Or maybe somebody else could help you with whatever issue that you're having. So yeah, come in this page, display your work, and we'll be happy to help. Also, don't forget to check out the past challenges so you can see the previous work that people have done in other challenges. You can check out the tips and tricks tab. There's a whole bunch of information, a lot of resources, so I highly recommend going into the Discord app and joining our community. So if you haven't done so already, take a moment and join the community. Also, if you haven't already, don't forget to download the file for, where did it go? The file for today's stream. So get started. The actual photo that we're going to extract the hair from is not as important as a second layer that's there, where we're going to create a brush out of somebody else's hair. So that's really the big tip of this stream. So that's a really important layer or photo that you need to have so that you can follow along. But the actual photo that we're going to mask, you don't have to use that photo. You can use any other photo that you like. So let me make sure that I am in Photoshop and I have this file open, which is the portrait that we're going to work with and this hair layer that we're going to use to create a custom brush. People are making comments about how I mentioned that Tim is on Discord 24/7. Some really funny comments there, guys. But anyway, yeah, Pamela wrote, I don't think Tim sleeps. Yeah, I don't think so either. I think he's in Germany, and like no matter what time of day, he's online typing, answering questions, and being really helpful. So thank you, Tim, for all your hard work. But anyway, this is the file that we're going to use. And the first step is to actually make a selection out of the person that we're going to try to mask out from their background. You can do that in a lot of different ways. In Photoshop, the easiest way is to probably use the quick selection tool and just click and drag to make a selection around the person that you want to select, or you can use machine learning technology. Photoshop CC has artificial intelligence called Adobe Sensei. So if you click on this button, select subject, Photoshop will analyze the image and it will attempt to select whatever it thinks the main subject is. When I click on select subject, you'll see that Photoshop will do a very decent job in selecting this image. So the only thing I really don't want to select is this area here, because those fine hairs are just going to be basically impossible to mask out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac, and click to subtract. And maybe I'll add just a little more, the hair that actually will stay. This will probably be also very difficult to select, so I'm not really going to attempt to select it. So that's the dirty little secret that a lot of professional compositors use. We don't necessarily keep every single strand of hair because it's too difficult or too time consuming to select. So we just disregard anything that we can't select easily because we don't want to waste our time. And what we will do instead is we will paint in digital hair. So that's the main point of this stream, painting in digital hair in images that are just too complicated to mask out. So when you have your layer selected, your portrait layer, all you need to do is just click on the layer mask icon to make a layer mask and create a mask. A mask hides contents in an image. Black hides, white reveals. If I hold Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac, and click on the layer mask thumbnail, you can actually see the layer mask. So notice that everything that is in black is now hidden. Everything that is in white is revealed, and the different levels of gray give you different levels of opacity. So I'll once again hold Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac, and click on the layer mask thumbnail to bring the mask back. So you can see that everything was in black is now completely transparent. At this point, you can refine your mask if you want. In the properties panel, you can select on select and mask, and you can just start smoothing your layer mask. And let me just switch the view onto black and white so that you can see what's going on. If I smooth the mask, you can see how the mask is not as jagged anymore. So you can smooth it just a little bit, not to have such a jagged mask. Maybe feather it a bit, which blurs the edges, and maybe shift the edge inward to contract the mask just a little bit, and I'll press OK. I'm not really worried about the hair at this point because I already know that it's just too difficult to select. And I'll even show you, if I go back into select and mask and just go into the maybe onion skinning mode and use this tool, the refine edge tool, and I try to bring back some of the hair there, you'll notice that Photoshop is going to have a really tough time selecting those hairs just because the background is too similar. It's too busy, and you're not going to get a lot of contrast between the foreground element and the background element, so it doesn't do a good job. So I'm not going to waste my time trying to fine tune and refine that edge mask because I know it's not going to do a good job, and at the very end it's not going to be worth it spending too much time on it. So what I'm going to do is, oh, I see that my good friend Mark Heaps is on the chat. Hey, Mark. Mark is one of my very best friends, Adobe Mac speaker, excellent designer, and a lot of people don't know, but he's also a really, 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 really good photographer. So think of Mark as a very good photographer, then as a very good designer. But anyway, Mark Heaps, check him out. Life by Pixels is his handle everywhere. Really, really smart guy. Whenever I get stuck with Photoshop, that's one of the guys I talk to. So Mark Heaps, thanks for joining the chat, and hopefully we can see you on a stream at some point. So yeah, thanks for the support, man. He's out in Austin, Texas. I was just there visiting him, and he actually got me into playing the guitar. I had never touched the guitar in my life, and he is an excellent musician. I don't know how many guitars he owns. It feels like he owns 30 of them, but he put a guitar in my hand, and I started playing a song. Well, I wasn't playing a song. I was attempting to play a song from the movie A Star is Born. I fell in love with it, and I came back to California where I live, and I bought a guitar. So I'm trying to learn to play the guitar now. So thanks for that, Mark. Anyway, back to Photoshop. So with this layer selected, now we have to worry about how we're going to get the hair back in. And like I said, we're going to just paint in digital hair because it would be so much easier to do than to actually try to select everything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to enable this hair layer, and I'm just going to open it up in a new tab by duplicating it. So if you right click and select duplicate layer, you'll get this window. And from this window, you can select the document destination and just select new and press OK. And that just opens up that layer in a new window, which is what I want. I'm also going to rasterize the layer. So I'll right click and select rasterize. Currently, the layer is a smart object that's linked to the cloud. I don't want that. I just want to be able to paint directly in the pixels. And what I'm going to do now is just crop the image so that I just have this left hand side of her hair. We're going to use that part to make a brush that I can just paint in those strands of hair onto my original image. So what I'm going to do is click on the crop tool and drag this slider to the left, or handle to the left, and then drag this one to the right because I want to focus just on that part of the side of her head. So we're going to make a brush that looks just like that so I can just paint in the hair next to my other model. So what I'm going to do now is desaturate the layer. It just makes it easier to see. So you don't really have to do this step, but it's easier. Control-Shift-U, Command-Shift-U on the Mac to desaturate, or you can go into Image, Adjustments, and desaturate is in here somewhere. There it is, desaturate. There's the keyboard shortcut in case you forget it. What I'm going to do now is try to make the background white and the strands of hair black, or as close as I can to black. And the easiest way to do that is by going into Image, Adjustment, Levels, and just click and drag this white point to the left and the black point to the right, and just fine tune it to try to make it as white as possible here in the background, and the foreground as dark as possible, as close as you can to black. Then you can use the dodge tool. Make sure that the range is set to highlights, and then just paint in on the background just to make sure that it is white, or as white as possible, like so. Like so. And then you can use the burn tool and select shadows under range, and then just make the strands of hair as close as you can to black. And now we're going to use this as our brush. And all I have to do now is go into Edit, Define Brush Preset. There it is. You can give it whatever name you like. I'm just going to call it hair, and I'll spell it correctly. There it is, hair. Press OK. And here's my brush. If you have the brush tool, or not the brush tool, this is not the brush tool. Whatever painting tool you have active will apply that brush. The brush will be applied to it. So I will actually select the brush tool and make sure that I do have that hair layer selected that I just made. And I can go back into my working document. I'll disable this layer, and I can create a new layer, and watch what happens when I paint. See, I painted these strands of hair, and they're pretty good. And what I'm going to do now is just undo that and use the left bracket key on my keyboard to reduce the size of the brush to try to match her hair, roughly the same size. And then I'm gonna hold Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac, and click to sample her hair color, and then just paint once like so. I can come and drag that layer below her and just press Control T, Command T to transform, and I'll try to just get the edges as best as I can to match the edges of her hair. I can also right click and warp the image so that the hair more closely resembles the edges of hair of her hairline there. So now when I zoom in, you'll see that I have much more realistic hair strands than if I would have tried to make a selection out of those really difficult to select areas. And obviously just you'll need a whole lot more than just one brush stroke of hair. You'll probably need maybe even a dozen, maybe more. It just depends on the image. So what I would do now is just select a different color, paint, and do the same process all over again. Something else that I can do is instead of using just the distort or the transformation warp, I can go into edit, puppet warp, and I'll just click on show mesh so that I could see the mesh, and I could just create points on the hair and then just fine tune it accordingly so that the hair matches the contours of the actual model, and then press OK. So as you can see, I can quickly start building up hair on those edges that's going to look much more realistic than if I really spent a lot of time trying to select those difficult to select areas, because the background is very similar, there's not a lot of contrast, and there's a lot of detail behind their head. So this is a much better way of doing it. So what I think that I will show you guys now, I'm looking at the time, we don't have too much time. I'm trying to see if there is any questions. There's no questions. But yeah, so this is all that you would do. Obviously, I use just one photo of this model, but what I would recommend doing is going into either Adobe Stock or any other photo library, maybe from your own personal library, and just find photos that have hair like this that you can make brushes out of, and just make a whole bunch of brushes. Maybe you can have a library of brushes in your installation of Photoshop where you just have a ton of different brushes for different types of scenarios, and it'll make your job a whole lot easier when you're trying to mask out difficult to select hair in Photoshop. So that should be your homework, finding images that you can make brushes out of. At least you have this one to play around with for today, but again, look in your library, find more photos either on Adobe Stock or on other websites so that you can create your hair brushes. And one other thing that I recommend doing when working with this type of hair is just using your Wacom tablet, and I'll just bring mine up here so I can start painting with it. And I can just go into my tablet and just select like a really tiny little brush, like, I don't know, a soft brush, maybe harden it up a little bit, reduce the size to maybe 2, or we'll do 2 pixels for now, see how that works. And I'll do the same thing. I'll select oops, sorry about that. I'll select a hair color, create a new layer, and I'll create this layer above her. And I can just start painting individual strands of hair. That might be a little too big, so I'll maybe bring it back down to 1 pixel, and maybe I'll even go into the shape dynamics. So I clicked on this button to bring up the brushes settings, and under shape dynamics, I can go into pen pressure for the size jitter. So now when I paint, it should have a finer brush stroke. So something like that. So I can obviously come in here and start painting in her hair, try to follow the actual contours of the real hair, and keep selecting different colors so that they're not all the same colors. And obviously in a real project, you would have to take your time. I have about 4 more minutes with you guys, and there's a couple other things that I need to talk about. But I think that you get the idea. So those are the 2 things that you should do when trying to mask hair from a really difficult background. Again, the reason that we didn't use a traditional method of just using the refine edge tool with the selected mask is because her hair is very similar to the background in terms of color. The background has a lot of texture, and it's just very difficult to select. So these are the 2 things that you can do to select hair, or not really select, fake hair in Photoshop so that it looks like a real selection or a real composite when you actually put it into a new background. Let me know if you guys have any comments on the chat. Let me just see. Each clump you brush in is on its own layer. So the answer to that is probably. It doesn't have to be, but it just makes it easier to control. So if I want to distort it or move it, it's a lot easier if it's in its own layer. But it doesn't have to be. So it's up to you. Adobe Capture makes brushes too, right? Yes, Adobe Capture is an app that you have on your phone. You can take a picture of something and then you can turn that into a brush. I haven't tried making a hairbrush with Capture, but I'm sure that somebody could figure out on how to do that. Maybe you find somebody with long hair, put their hair on over a white piece of paper, lay their hair down, take a picture, and see if that works. But yeah, you can definitely make brushes with Adobe Capture. When you make a brush, does it save for future projects? Well, yeah, the brushes will save in your installation of Photoshop. And yeah, so for example, this brush is now, where's my brush? My brushes panel there. See, my brushes are there. And I can export my brushes too if I wanted to save them and, give them to a friend or sell them or something like that. Let's see. Great technique to use other photos as reference to fix your current photo. And yeah, thanks, Mark. Can't wait to see Discord, guys. Oh yeah, Discord. So don't forget to check out Discord, guys. If you go onto this link right above my head, you'll get to the Discord page. And once again, this is what that page looks like. Let me go back into there. Here we go, Discord. So make sure that anything that you mask out for today's stream, you share it with us. Show us a before and after. And you can put it under current challenge. And this is a really cool one. Wow, good job, Axel. But anyway, you can see how Axel did the day 2 challenge of retouching a photo and adding the bokeh effects and the colors. So you can bring that in and we can check it out. So yeah, don't forget to come into Discord and share your work, ask questions. So yeah, so one of the mentors will be there helping you out, either myself, Claudie, Sam, or Tim, who, as we established earlier, lives on Discord and never sleeps. So yeah, check it out. Let me see if there's any other questions. Harvey wrote, maybe I'll make a hairbrush and use it on my bald head. That would probably work on a photo. Will the brush automatically be accessible in Illustrator and InDesign, etc.? No, these are Photoshop brushes, so you will not have access to them on the other apps. It's incredible. Thanks. All right, guys. Well, yeah, it looks like there's no more questions. And actually, for the first time ever, after I don't know how many streams I've done, I feel like I've done so many. I've done at least 3 daily creative challenges and maybe 3 or 4 other regular long form streams. And I think this is the very first time that I'm actually done 1 minute early. Can you guys believe that? Usually I just have so much more to show you that I go over my time, and then the people at the studio, Paco, is telling me to stop streaming because it's time for the next person to come on. So I'm glad that I'm not gonna get yelled at today. So thank you so much for joining me today. I love seeing everybody here learning and asking questions. Oh, I do have one thing I want to show you, just super quick. It's not going to take more than 20 seconds. If you are interested in masking on my YouTube channel, the PhotoshopTrainingChannel.com, I have 17 videos all about masking and blending images together and doing this type of stuff that we did here today. I'll copy the link URL and I'll post it in the comments, so check it out. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys again very soon. I'll be back again tomorrow, so be back again tomorrow, and don't forget to stay here for the next stream. Just go get a bathroom break and come back and check out the next streamer. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be with you again tomorrow.